I've practiced my own form of shamanism that I've put together for many years. And properly utilized shamanism, you guys, will show you the vast, and it'll show you many things, but one thing that it will undeniably show you is the vast intelligence of the biosphere and its inhabitants. You see, we no longer have our psychic antennas erect. We only exist in a small fraction of our potential, which only allows us to interact with our senses, at least the visible light spectrum. And because of that, when we look at, for instance, a snake or a cow, that's all we really see. We aren't able to see beyond the perceptual veil that's part of the overarching architecture of this matrix, where your senses are imprisoned. And because of that, you only see a small fraction of the truth when you look at something, whether that be a mineral, whether that be an animal, a cloud, a body of water, etc. You see everything's alive. Everything is sentient. Everything is conscious here. So again, and I know this is going to sound crazy to most people, but I don't give a shit. One of the things that I was blown away by when I started to eventually enter into a valid state of shamanic consciousness, one of the things that I was very humbled by was my ability to communicate with animals telepathically. So that goes against everything that we've been taught. But you guys, during my first Kundalini awakening, and I've said this once, I'm going to say it again. The reason why I had that Kundalini awakening, is because of a serpent. A ball python, to be exact, named Apollo, which is basically the Greek version of Horus. Snakes, ladies and gentlemen, are able to perform Shaktipat on the human organism, on the human soul. Again, let me repeat that, because I really want to drive this home in this video. Serpents, snakes, whatever you want to call them, are able to perform Shaktipat on the human organism, the human soul, the human energetic system, the meridians, etc. This is again, this goes against everything that we've been taught. Now, before we continue, for those who don't know, Shaktipat is basically, in layman's terms, to summarize something that's rather difficult to explain. Shaktipat is when an enlightened being is able to awaken Kundalini in another organism. So, I'm not going to get into the fine details of this experience, my first experience with the Serpent Kingdom, because it's a highly personal one, and I just don't want to do it right now. I will, however, say that that snake named Apollo moved in a specific direction, or how would I explain this? The snake basically hypnotized me, you guys, based on the way it was moving. I noticed it moving out of the corner of my eye. I had it in a big aquarium, like a glass tank. It was very close to this snake. I noticed the snake, it was rubbing itself up along one of the front piece of glass in the aquarium that I had the snake in. It was an empty, a lot of people do that. They keep snakes in aquariums that aren't full of water. They're actually perfect vessels for keeping snakes as long as you give them enough room. The snake, Apollo, had leaned its body against the front panel of glass and had moved its stomach or the side of itself so that I could see the print on the side of his body. And it was doing this motion. It's hard to explain without showing you. But the way that the snake moved its scales in this rhythmic fashion, it caught my eye, and it slowly, my eyes started looking or watching the snake move, and it began to put me into a trance state. Now, this is something that's rather hard to find information on, but if you do enough digging, you can find information about pythons or snakes actually hypnotizing people. This is somewhat prevalent. The information, at least, you can find some information about this truth in voodoo. You can find in the African spiritual traditions and shamanic systems, you can find information of people talking about snakes actually being able to hypnotize people, put them in a trance state. And the trance state is very important, you guys, because it alters the consciousness. In fact, entering into a trance state is one of the most important parts of you learning how to practice or perform real magic. You've got to learn to enter into a trance state. Now, we only call it a trance state because we're so used to being dominated by the conscious mind. When you start to get some degree of perceptual fluidity back, and divert away from the conscious programming, the state of mind that we're normally in the matrix, it resembles a trance state, but we're supposed to be able to enter into these states fluidly. That's a rant for a completely different video, you guys. Where was I going with that? You can find information especially in the African spiritual traditions, the shamanic systems of snakes, pythons, boas, anacondas, etc., being able to hypnotize people. And I find it really, really interesting looking back in hindsight. After my first experience with Serpent hypnosis, I did a deep dive online to try to find information about these experiences because, again, it was life-changing, to say the least. And I actually found, you guys, I think it was an old Disney movie. I don't think it's Peter Pan. I can't remember, but they were even hinting at in these these animations that are designed for children, even though they're hyper advanced mind control systems, the Disney shit. There are Disney movies. Is it Jungle Book? I think it's Jungle Book, where a serpent actually hypnotizes someone in the actual movie or show, whatever the fuck it is, you guys. And if you go online and do some digging, folks, you'll find information of snakes actually or records of people being hypnotized by snakes. And the hypnotic state or the trance state is pivotal for awakening the Kundalini because the trance state takes you out of the normal operational trajectory or firing pattern of your normal consciousness. And breaking those walls down is pivotal to being able to slip into shamanic consciousness, because the consciousness that we're currently dominated by, where we only have access to the electromagnet or the visible light spectrum within the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Where am I going with that? Excuse me. I want to just stop and then I want to try to summarize what I'm saying because I'm rambling. The state of mind that we've been habituated to constantly exert or live under the jurisdiction of, that is an anti-Kundalini system. It's an anti-gnosis consciousness. So being able to regain some degree of perceptual fluidity by way of entering into a fluid trance state or hypnotic state, it's pivotal because it's like breaking the walls down of your normal consciousness. And then after those walls have been taken down, a different state of being can emerge. I hope that makes sense. But this serpent, you guys, it hypnotized me and put me into a suggestive, highly altered trance state where then, and I'm not going to explain all the details of this because this is a very personal experience. I probably shouldn't even be explaining it now.
The full video can be viewed for free by clicking the link in the description box below.
I can't help but ask myself daily, what the fuck is actually going on here? I have witnessed so many radical changes to this world in the 32 years that I have been here, most of them sadly drenched in evil. The enemy is busy building its empire, a dystopia built upon the ashes of a free world forgotten. AI, surveilled, digitized, genocide, scorched earth, hive mind, drone. We are being led by demons, masquerading as our saviors. An iniquitous oligarchy composed largely, but not entirely, of an elite class of psychopathic technocrats, eugenicists, behavioral psychologists, etc. Operating entirely through subterfuge, this consortium of evil has created a most genius veil of camouflage, enabling them to quite literally pose as a knight in shining armor coalition of humanity's saviors, promising to liberate the masses from the very afflictions that this inner circle of evil gave birth to. Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.